Hi, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
For those of you who do not know me, I'm Gladys Mezrahi, Commissioner of the City of Aventura, and we're going live with G. Cole. If you want me to call you G, that's perfectly fine. And the reason that, but wait, let me go back a little bit because I really wanted to say something before we started. I want to say something. I want to pay my respects to Justice Ginsburg. Not only the US, but the world lost an icon. She created the path for many women. She created the lives, a different livelihood for many, many women to follow. So today, that's how I wanted to start, by honoring Justice Ginsburg. And on another note, please register to vote.
Yes.
More than ever, our vote counts, and we really need it. So with that said, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here. And I'm glad everybody who's watching.
Yes, and so please tell me a little bit about yourself. I just don't want to read something that somebody wrote. This is more of a personal thing. And after you introduce yourself, I'll let the people know why you're here.
All right. Well, I'm born and raised in Miami, and my father actually grew up in Venezuela. So we spoke Spanish, and I speak Spanish, and have been really a big part of Miami for a long time, and have enjoyed the diversity and just love. I like to say we live in paradise. And however, I spent a lot of time. My household was a little disruptive, and I found myself in my 30s having a pretty severe depression, and father of two, and going through a divorce, and really seeing hard times. My father died in my arms at that time, and it was tough. And so I started to seek help, and I had a hard time, finding that help, and ended up studying psychology, and my 30s really kind of trying to figure out how to get my life on a track that I could be happy. And I was studying psychology, helping counseling. I was working with a psychologist, and we had sober living houses. So we were helping recovering alcoholics and drug addicts and counseling them, and had an office down south by Dayland. And I found neuroscience and started to study the neuroscience back in like 2006, 2007. And in beginning 2008, I went and studied with an inventor of a technology to learn as much as I could about the neuroscience. And in that path, I found neurofeedback, and was able to basically break out of my depression. And what I found out was, by studying psychology and counseling for all that time, I learned how to cope. And I learned how to be a well-adjusted human being, a more mature adult. The problem was I was waking up every morning depressed. And so I would spend my day, following the tools and techniques I'd learned to be able to be happier. And then I'd go to sleep and wake up depressed. And the neuroscience taught me how to break that pattern, because I found out I had sleep issues, and it was my sleep that was really the problem. And through the neuroscience, I was able to cure that. And so the psychologist and I brought it into our office, and we started to do neurofeedback with psychology, kind of in two different meetings and sessions with our clients. And then we started to integrate them. And we've been doing that since 2008. We've had over 1,300 clients, and the average client does about 15 sessions. So if you do the math, I've been involved with over 60,000 sessions, and each one of the sessions has pretty much 10 different brain mappings that I look at to help make sure that they're progressing through our program as intended. And so I've looked at 600,000 mind maps and brain maps, and basically logged over 1 million minutes of brainwave analysis. So I've become one of the world's leaders in this kind of science, which is a newer science. Neuroplasticity is the process, it's the science of how our nerves develop and change in our lifetime. So, NASA and proved it to be true in 1995. And the technology that I'm working with really came into being in 2004, 2005. And so I've been working with it for 12, 13 years. And, I've been blessed to be able to start Pathways in 2016. We've created a whole program that's a standardized program that's constantly being adjusted for each client that comes through based on their neuronal activity, based on their neural pathways. And, I've just been helping people better their lives for the last 20 years. And it's just been a fantastic journey for me. And, I'm pleased to say I live depression free, and I know September is Suicide Prevention Month. And, back really 15 years ago, I planned my suicide. And because of my children, I did not do it. And, it was a tough beginning of a long journey. And, it's really been a beautiful, beautiful process.
So you turned an oops into a real wow. That's
Yes.
in my words.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, I've made a lot of mistakes early on in my life, and I've been able to right myself in many wrongs. And
Because I've done several things to create awareness on Suicide Prevention Month. And I had actually the rabbi of one of the communities in Aventura on my last episode, where he and his wife actually took the course to be able to recognize depression and suicide. And the other thing that I was able to do is create a resolution to create awareness that's going to be voted on our next workshop.
Fantastic.
And the other part that I read was that, yes, it's middle-aged men over women. It's middle-aged white men.
That's the fastest growing population that is committing suicide.
That's committing suicide. So in my mind, that now that I'm reading everything about all the problems with COVID and how it's affecting the Black population and the Latino population, why is it, and I'm not saying, but they have a lot of the problems. So why are white men that are not being affected in the same way are the ones committing suicide?
Well, that's a big question. I love it.
But it's puzzling.
I have to tell you that the world has advanced so much. They call this the information age that we're in. And so the studies show that as humans, we're processing more than 175 times more pieces of information every day than we did 100 years ago. But our ability to process and our speed of processing hasn't sped up. And, we've been talking about and living the American dream for a really long time. And, you know, the schools teach and our parents teach, hey, you have to get up, you have to go out, you got to work hard, you got to create, you got to produce, and to be successful, to get by, to make it. And so our society has really pushed a lot of everybody, including white males, to be all about a human doing, right? Instead of being a human being and always producing and producing and producing. So we don't really learn how to sit back and appreciate our lives. And so what you see a lot is we'll have a goal and we want to hit a sales goal, or we want to buy a new car or a house, and we'll do that. And when we get it, instead of really being happy and enjoying it for a long period of time, that enjoyment period is very short, you know. And they used to call what a man owns or a woman owns their trappings, and that's because everything you own has responsibilities. And so the more things you have, the more it traps you. And so more and more people are reaching a stage in life where, you know what, I followed the formula, I've been hitting all the goals, and they haven't spent a lot of time celebrating and enjoying what they've done and what they have on a daily basis. So what they find is they're sad, they're miserable. I had a client recently, he was 60 years old, and he came to me. Actually, he was 58 when he came to me. He's now 60. And he said, I don't know what's wrong. I can't figure it out. I need your help. And I worked with him for about 6 months. And I saw him recently. And he looked at me and said, you know, I had no idea how miserable I was. I thought to work and do well, you had to be miserable. And we were able to teach him how to appreciate what he has and know that he doesn't have to go to work. He gets to go to work. He gets to have that job. He gets to do the things he does. And just that one little switch makes a huge difference. And so, you know, unfortunately for people who find themselves in that situation where they're human doings and they're in the rat race and they just aren't having enough time to celebrate, when they go for help, the help out there, you know, medications and those kind of things just aren't going to fix this. You know, medications have their purpose and, you know, have great uses, but when the formula for living doesn't work anymore, you have to help people understand and create a purpose. And our first purpose that we teach people is self-love, self-service. Take care of yourself first so that you can love others and be of service to others. You know, there's an old saying.
A lot of the misconceptions is that money brings you happiness.
Right, success.
And success, money, and the whole thing. And there are things that you cannot even buy with money that are priceless.
Right.
When you get a thank you note after helping somebody with a little thing, that's literally priceless, and that doesn't cost any money.
You're right. And we don't spend enough time just sitting back and enjoying what we have.
Correct. You know? But yesterday we did something really nice, and I wanted to tell everybody about it because actually we got a donation from the Ari Foundation to help the police department and some of the officers go through your course. And the reason that I spearheaded this was because the safety, the feeling of safety is, again, priceless. And who gives that safety to the police? And when I saw that you were gearing towards first responders, veterans, police department, why are you concentrating on that part? You talked about PTSD. I know that it's before they used to say it will go away, and now we know it will not go away. So can you share with us some of that?
So I really started to work on this back in 2018 when the reports came out in 2017 that the #1 cause of death on the job for Miami-Dade firefighters was suicide because of PTSD. PTSD, a lot of people don't understand that caregivers, people that help us serve others, get compassion fatigue. And that is a form of PTSD. And unfortunately, one of the first things it affects is our sleep. And sleep is very, very important for us to be able to rejuvenate and constantly be at the highest level of function. And so when that starts to break down, every other part of life starts to break down. And for all first responders, doctors, EMT, firefighters, policemen, veterans, the suicide rates have and actually enlisted personnel in the military, the suicide rates have been climbing and climbing and climbing. Since 2000, they've gone up 30% pretty much across the board. So we began to focus on that, one, because the need is rising, and two, the ability to take care of it. We have really kind of found a process which does help it go away. It helps. We're talking about neurologically, right? Our whole lives are in our nervous system and the energy that we create. And we have been able to help people create less of that energy that's reacting to their past, so they can be more in the present. The whole mindfulness movement, we're using those tools and techniques, have been proven in many, many research studies to help with PTSD and sleep issues. So we're combining that and integrating it into our neurotechnology and our process called neuroempowerment to help people create less of those kinds of, really the energies of PTSD, which is when things happen in our past, our nervous system keeps track of them in order to keep us safe from it happening again. And so we have multiple events of trauma, because PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And, the disorder, we all have post-traumatic stress. It's just when it gets so high that it's affecting other areas of life, it becomes a disorder. And so, the challenge is to constantly, we teach people how to influence their nervous system to stop being watchful of the traumas of our past, because they build up. The more you have, the more your nervous system has to keep a watchful eye to keep you safe from that happening in the future. And so safety and helping our nervous system understand that we're safe, is a big part of our process. So I was glad to hear you talking about how important it is for us to help the police, because the police keep us safe, and like you said, who's going to help keep them safe? And that's exactly what we're working on at Pathways. So I really appreciate the RE Foundation and you for bringing us in with Captain Pegas to help the police force. So,
to give them tools so they can. So explain to me what, I know that you're going to give them the tools, and I know I heard from one of the police officers saying that this was magic. So explain to me what's the magic behind the tools that you're giving them to be able to cope with stressful situations.
So if you imagine that, anything that you can do, you have a neural pathway that you've created to do that. So if you don't have a neural pathway to be able to influence your nervous system to function differently, then you're not going to be able to do that. And the mindfulness movement is all about learning how to condition your nervous system to help you be more mindful. So we've taken those techniques and we've adjusted them to be more self-directed, to be able to communicate and influence and condition our nervous systems to impact how we feel and function in a better way. And so we are integrating it, right? So when people come into our office, the first thing we do is a QEEG, which gives a mind map, which shows how the nerve system is coming in and out of our brains, which is the main control center for all the control centers of our nervous systems. So when I say nervous systems, I mean like the cardiac nervous system, the pulmonary nervous system, and the digestive nervous system. They all have their own nervous systems with their own little control centers, but they all report to the brain. So we start out by being able to show where those imbalances are affecting each person today. And then we start to talk about, all right, let's focus on if we identify that sleep's an issue, or digestion, or just hypervigilance could be an issue, especially for police officers and firemen, how we can work through changing that. And we've created a standardized program because we start with learning how to get my nervous system to know I'm safe. And so there's certain patterns that agree with that. So when we're in session, so the first thing we teach techniques, and then in session, we put sensors in different areas of the scalp so that we can monitor different areas of the brain and the different levels of the mind. We're actually, with the mindfulness techniques, teaching each person how to change the way their mind is having their brain function. And the computer is assigning a digital tone to each level of the mind and playing back live time. We do 1,000 measurements a second down to 1/1000th of a hertz, which a hertz is one wave of electricity per second. I don't know if you know, but your nervous system creates electricity. So we're actually monitoring your electricity. And what you hear is we're playing back those digital tones in the same pattern that your mind is entering and coming in and out of your brain. So you're actually hearing the music of your mind. So for the first time, your system gets a digital mirror of how you're functioning. And we then show your mind, if we're working on calm or safety, we show your mind a pattern that's 10% calmer or safer than what your pattern is. Then we show you your pattern, and then calmer and safer. So the computer is actually coaching your system to create this other pattern. And when your pattern matches that, we step it down another 10%. And we show you your pattern and then that pattern. At the same time, you're working on the techniques we've taught you to calm yourself and help your nervous system know that you're safer. Does that help, or did I get too complicated?
You got too technical for me. But
So you want to imagine that we have like a neurotech spotter at the gym, right? And you're going in and you're doing the gym exercises,
yes,
your mind, and our spotter is helping you with your technique. And as you practice it, you get better and better and better at it, and soon you can do it on your own. So it's kind of what we're doing here in the office, but it's for your nervous system instead of your muscles.
no, let me do something that helped. Yes.
All right.
No more down-to-earth explanation.
Well, you wanted me to get into the science. The science is all about neuroplasticity.
Remember that the rest of us are not scientists, so we need to A, B, and C so we can learn how to do it. But let me ask you something. For a lot of people, I know that coping mechanisms are also acupuncture, hypnosis. How do you compare those to what you're doing? Meditation? Like, why not go through all those and go through what you're doing?
So those are great techniques. What we do is really a whole other level, because we're actually entraining your nervous system and giving you the ability to entrain your nervous system yourself. So we don't do something to you. You know, when you go to a guided meditation, you're following the guide. If you go to an acupuncturist, they're getting your body to make changes based on what they, are, what meridians they're hitting. If you're going to a massage therapist, I mean, they're getting your body to release. What they're not doing is giving you the tools and techniques from here on to be able to influence how your body functions so that you don't have to go back as much. And so what our process does is it empowers you to be in charge of your nervous system, which is why we call it neuroempowerment. And we're really using the integration of psychology with neuroscience. And it's a direct effect on your nervous system. And everything we do, we monitor it so that we're watching your neurological responses as you go through our process. So we don't just do things to see what happens. We do things knowing the intent of the neurological change, and then we watch it happen. If it's not happening the way that we intend, we can then adjust our system to help your system change the way we're intending. So I mean, we're a lot more measured. We're a lot more of analysis. I like to say it's a three-pronged approach instead of just one. And anytime you're combining, integrating, and monitoring modalities, you're going to improve the effectiveness. And so that's kind of what we're doing. And you mentioned hypnosis. A lot of what we're doing is teaching self-hypnosis and the ability to meditate to be able to change how your nervous system functions from here on. It's not just in that one moment. And those are kind of the big differences.
Can something go wrong?
I'm sorry?
Can something go wrong when someone goes through the treatment?
So it's just a learning process. So it'd be kind of like saying, can something go wrong when you go to school? Or, you practice anything. We're not pushing anybody to a limit that they're not capable of doing. We're basically just guiding, I guess it's a turbocharged form of meditation because we're getting the nervous system to change more rapidly. But we're not doing anything to you. We're just guiding it.
Got it.
So you change at your speed no matter what. We don't push.
You must be doing really well now during this COVID.
Well, unfortunately, many people have too much anxiety to come and help us, fix their anxiety. So sales are way down, but that's okay. We're doing the best we can, just like everybody else.
Why? Because now would be the time that you can come in and really help those people.
Well, they're coming back up now. In September, it's been much better, but when everything was shut down, people were not coming in so much.
Afraid.
Yeah, they didn't want the exposure, which I understand.
Can you help kids?
We have terrific kids programs, and have been helping lots and lots of kids. We have what we call Pathways Kids, and we have different paths based on what people's objectives are for coming in. And in our kids program, for the pricing we have for adults, we have the same price for the kids, except that they get more sessions for the children, and we throw in, as part of the package, 5 sessions for the adults. Because, with kids, it's important that the whole family understands the change we're making. And we do, in our coaching and our psychological side of this, do help the parents learn some new parenting techniques, some new ways to communicate, which are nonverbal, to really pay attention to how they're carrying their bodies and themselves, to lower anxiety and to help their children feel safe and loved without even having to say a word, and that's a big important part of this, is helping the parents condition their children's nervous systems to know that they're safe and loved.
Got it. So you're helping. I know that we have Ana Margarita and Gloria with us. Any questions that I've left out? I totally know and I appreciate what you shared with us, because you actually told us that, yes, suicide can be preventable. So
Yes.
There's people out there that actually don't know that they can help.
We, in fact, I'm putting out a blog on our website, I think tomorrow, that talks about, well, it's actually in honor of my wife's niece who committed suicide when she was 17. This is 20 years ago. And it's about being able to recognize the signs, being able how to communicate with a person who you may suspect is having suicidal ideations and is just, or in deep depression, or is looking for just a way out or a different life. And so we talk about all of those indicators of how to, when to get involved and how to get involved. And then we also list, direct interventions and resources that are available, because our government has many resources. There's a suicide prevention hotline. The National Institute of Mental Health has a website, and there's lots of help that we can give to prevent suicide. And so it's a very important, to pay attention to really, like we were talking about in the very beginning.
That's the whole thing about this month. Create awareness and give the tools to continue. Okay. I am very, very happy to have you as my guest today. We're just running out of time. So
I want to say, Gladys, I've seen the work that you've been doing. You've been doing an amazing job, and I really appreciate your commitment to serving Aventura. And I look forward to seeing you more in the future.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to all the tools that you're going to give our community. And let's keep in touch. Have a great day. Stay safe and keep on smiling.
You too. Enjoy.
I love your smile.
You too.